Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. I'm joined once again by my co-hosts, Andrew and Adam. Andrew's very excited about this episode because we are moving on to a skill position player, and we're going to be talking about the New York Giants pick. They moved down, they went to pick 20, and they picked the wide receiver Kadarius Toney, very exciting player from Florida. And we also have Jack Humphrey joining us, New York Giant fan. He's going to be talking Kadarius Toney with us. He is the creator of the Kickers Matter podcast at DFS for the low ownership DFS, creator of the Golf DFS and Bets and of the Steve Rains Bowl, a fantastic competition, fantasy football competition that is really great as well. It's for a charitable cause as well. Jack, I know you're in isolation. I know it's a complete pain for you, mate. At least the weather's nice outside where you can get a bit of, tanning in and stuff like that. But thanks for taking that time out to come and join us, buddy.
No worries, guys. Thanks for having me. The isolation's not going well. My 4-year-old's playing up tonight, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Well, firstly, Jack, obviously it was a big night for the Giants. You moved down in the draft. Obviously, there was a bit of NFC East rivalry trades going on where the Giants may or may not have been screwed out of a player. Maybe, I don't know. I know Andrew has his thoughts on it with the Eagles and the Cowboys. I'm sure you do as well. But you go down to 20. You pick the wide receiver Kadarius Toney. His name gets called out, becomes officially a New York Giant. What was your reaction on the night?
Annoyed, really. I wasn't particularly happy with the pick. Obviously, the Eagles took Devontae Smith. I wouldn't worry, Andrew. Every wide receiver they seem to draft turns into a bust anyway, so I wouldn't worry too much.
I'm not worried about that one.
with Kadarius Toney, I just see him as a bit of he's a gadget player, so to speak. It's such a bad comp because everyone does this with these speedsters, these sort of gadget guys that come out of college. Everyone comps them to Tyreek Hill. That's kind of what I see him as, maybe more McCole Hardman. And the Giants do have a need at that sort of skill position, like that sort of wide receiver. They brought in Kenny Golladay this year. So I see why they done it. I wouldn't have done it. I would have took Rashod Bateman. I believe Rashod Bateman was a better wide receiver on the board at the time. And if they fell in love with Toney that much, I think they should have moved back again.
What was it that impressed you the most about him? Because he did show signs of being a decent player in college. So I mean, what was it that you liked about him, or was there not anything?
No, there was stuff I like. He's a playmaker, like I said. He's excellent when he gets the ball in his hands, and he can gain more yards when he's got the ball in his hands. I have concerns. Size-wise, I don't think he's your prototype wide receiver for the NFL. I do have a lot of concerns in regards to that. And it took him 3 years to put up some decent stats in college. Like his 2020 stats, he had 70 receptions for 984 yards and 10 touchdowns. But previous to that, he was used as a gadget player in college. So I have a lot of concerns. We've got a 1-year sample of him in college.
I think when you take away the fact that he was a round one pick, which is where I find the issue with him. I think once you take that away and just analyze him as a player, as a whole, I think we're being a little bit harsh with him. I know I have been, and obviously you feel the same. But I think when you're looking at him, he is a bit of a Swiss Army of a player. Like he was a quarterback in high school. I think that's a good trait. He's played running back. He's played wide receiver. We do already have some really, really good, talented wide receivers already. So I think he will fit the scheme, his quickness, his burst of speed. I think my big thing I really, really liked about him was he never drops a ball. If it gets thrown towards him, it sticks and he catches it. I think he was in the lowest percentage of drops out of every single wide receiver in that draft class. So, I've got no concerns with him. I do really like him. I just don't think he was round one talent. But that in mind, how well do you think Toney will adapt to the NFL?
I do think it'll be much like his college career. I think it's going to take. Again, I'm going to a comparison with McCole Hardman. I think it's going to take 2 to 3 years. Like everyone fell in love with McCole Hardman. I know the fantasy community did, for example, they fell in love with McCole Hardman when he came out. I believe this year you're probably going to see the breakout of McCole Hardman. But I think that's think it's going to be something very similar for Kadarius Toney. He's the number 4 wide receiver on this depth chart at the minute. I just think it's going to take 2 to 3 years before you see him at his best, and Daniel Jones might not be his QB by then.
Wow, that is another hot take. We have to dive deep into the Daniel Jones topic as well once we get through Kadarius Toney. I was going to ask you what you think his weaknesses are, but we have already covered it already. One of them you're saying is, he's a smaller wide receiver, but you look at the likes of Cole Beasley, I said McCole Hardman, Tyreek Hill. There's plenty of small Golden Tate in the history books, I suppose. There's been plenty of small receivers out there who had very long, good, successful careers and are still, like we said, the players that we had there that are active in the NFL and are being successful. Do you think there is a place in the NFL now for that smaller receiver? I know we all love the ginormous receiver, the Julio Joneses of the world, where they go up and grab it and they moss it, I suppose, just like Randy Moss used to do. But is there a place for smaller wide receivers in the NFL, specifically also on the Giants? Because there is Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, both smaller guys as well there.
There's certainly a place for him in the NFL. He's very aggressive on contact. I've noticed that about him. I went back and again, I was very harsh with the pick when it came out. I did not like it at all. I'm very much the same as you, Andrew. I believe they could have moved back and got him even further and accumulated more draft capital in the process. But he's a very aggressive receiver. When he gets the ball in his hands, he can burst and create plays. I just have an issue. You can do that in college, because the guys are not as big. When it comes to the NFL, you get a hit. We've seen it with like running backs, for example, like Leonard Fournette, who invites contact on. These guys don't last long in the NFL. That's my issue.
So can I just ask this for Andrew and Jack as well? I mean, is the real issue with Toney not so much the fact that he was picked, it's more the fact of where he was picked, and that's the biggest problem with him?
For me, yes. And like I said, they could have moved back and got more capital in the process. I would have taken Rashod Bateman. I understand why they've took Toney. Is kind of a need within that wide receiver core. You've got Kenny Golladay who's come in, who's going to be the alpha receiver. Then you've got Shepard and Slayton who are going to play in the slot a lot. Toney's going to be a kick returner year one for sure. Like that's going to be his job. But I'd say I kind of get why they've done it. It's that gadget style receiver that you want in the NFL, and it's kind of where the NFL is going with these sort of players. But they could have moved back and got him.
Slightly different for me. I mean, I thought our needs wasn't wide receiver. I do really like Toney, and I would have been ecstatic if we got him in the second round. I think when I'm looking at it and we got Azeez Ojulari in the second round, I can't really then complain, because I would have been really, really happy with him in the first round. So you just flip those 2 picks round and I would have been happy as Larry. We wouldn't even be moaning. So it's really harsh, and it's a difficult one. It's just, the only thing is the immediate reaction to me of him not being good enough. And if we hadn't have got Ojulari with the second, that's where I might have started having an issue. But I do really like him. I don't think he did have a really good season. Was that boosted by the fact that Kyle Pitts was there and Tavon Grimes, who sort of everyone's marking them, so he got to look a bit better. But I do think he really, really adds, he's an absolute firecracker. He adds a bit of flair. And I don't think we've had a wide receiver like him since we had Victor Cruz. So, if he brings any jazz and passion like Victor Cruz did, I'm happy.
Jack, what do you think that Toney can learn from the offensive weapons that are in New York? Because you do have some decent talent there, and it's like, obviously as a rookie coming into the NFL, it will be, there's people there that can help him.
I hope he learns from Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay is a very good pro, and someone like I went back on Kenny Golladay's stats in his NFL career. He ranks 4th amongst wide receivers in the NFL at the minute. In deep receiving yards, and that is one of Kadarius Toney's strengths. So if he can learn more from Golladay about the NFL, then I'm sure he could turn out to be a very good pick from where they took him.
I mean, the next question we've got on the list, I mean, for me as well, I'm not sure we need to ask it. Do you think the pick was a reach?
I do, yeah. I said why they should have moved back for me.
It's interesting because you'd moved back obviously with the Bears. Well, I mean, I've go with this is probably one of the out of the ball question, I suppose. But what was your stance with all that movement there at that position? You move back down with the Bears, the Eagles, and the Cowboys all mess around with this trade. Michael Parsons goes, Devontae Smith goes. What was your reaction with all that movement? Did you think it was intentional that there was sort of correlating together to try and screw the Giants out of Devontae Smith or a player? I mean, I wanted the Giants personally in that position to pick Micah Parsons. I thought linebacker was a position that I thought you should have gone for at that point, and you could have got him. But then you decided to move down. The Bears take Justin Fields. The rest is history. What was your reaction on the night with all of that?
That is who I wanted at 11 was Micah Parsons for the Giants. That is a position I need. I don't get what the Eagles and the Cowboys are doing. They obviously are trying to screw the Giants. I don't believe you trade in division. I don't think it's a wise move. I don't think it works out at all, ever. But, we've seen this in the past with the Cowboys and, the Eagles. They've screwed each other over when I think it was the Eagles moved up to Dallas Goedert in front of the Cowboys and things like that. So it's an odd move. I don't get why the only reasoning behind it is to screw the Giants. They got wind of who the Giants wanted. I am actually quite glad that it wasn't Devontae Smith. I don't have a very high grade on Devontae Smith coming out. So I'm quite glad that wasn't the pick by the Giants anyway.
What is it about Devontae Smith that you feel that you wouldn't have wanted on the Giants?
Jalen Waddle was the wide receiver one on Alabama. It wasn't Devontae Smith. That was that was my.
We smile because it's doing a lot of these. This was what comes up. Was Jalen Waddle really the number one there? Was Devontae Smith, who was the better one? Was Mac Jones the better quarterback from Tua? The situation in Alabama was it? There was just loads of great players. Like it's an incredibly interesting topic. I think about that Alabama culture with their talent, I suppose.
Yeah, they produce fantastic talent, Alabama in general. I love Waddle going back with Tua as well. I think that's a great setup there for them. But that was my main issue. We saw 1 year out of Smith as the wide receiver one when Waddle was down, and I have weight concerns with Smith as well coming into the NFL. It's just, for me, I didn't want them to say that. Rashod Bateman was my wide receiver one in this class, so they could have had him at any point, and they didn't take him. So,
Andrew, what's your take on Jack's opinion of Rashod Bateman? Because you're obviously, out of the three of us who do this show, the one that has the most college knowledge. Great rhyme there. Fucking that just came right off the ball there. What was your opinion on Rashod Bateman?
I think he was round one class. I think he was probably late round one class. He's a taller, better NFL fit for a wide receiver. So if anybody wanted slot receivers or those Tyreek Hill receivers, then I think that's why they overlook Rashod Bateman. He's more of a downfield guy. He's what we've already got in Kenny Golladay. So, they're not going to play in the same place. You've already matched that position up. We needed something different, and we needed something sort of like that's not going to give you the same, something a bit more dynamic. Although, I think Rashod Bateman was underrated going into that draft and where he went. But ultimately he's going to be a wide out, taller guy on the edge. And I think the guys that went before him were better suited to the teams they went to, and that's the only reason he dropped.
Very interesting. He went to Baltimore in the end, right?
Yeah,
good place for him.
It is. It's a very interesting situation there. New York has done a lot this offseason. Kenny Golladay comes in. Carl Rudolph comes in. John Ross, I suppose, is another player that comes in as well. You have Saquon Barkley, Darius Slayton, Dante Pettis, Evan Engram. I mean, it's a really dynamic offense, Jack. Do you think it's maybe one of the best offenses out there in the NFL, or even maybe the most exciting?
Don't forget Carl Rudolph as well.
Carl Rudolph. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
it looks great on paper. It really does. Ultimately, though, it comes down to Daniel Jones and if he can improve. I have a lot of opinions on Daniel Jones, and again, it was a pick that I did not like. The Giants made.
Go on, Jack. Get it off your chest, mate. Get it off your chest. Tell us everything. Tell us everything.
Oh, I did not like the pick at the time. I mean, it was him or Dwayne Haskins. So in reality, it's worked out a little bit better than it was. But, I did not like the pick at the time. I just don't think you're ever going to win a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones, and that's the aim, right? For any NFL team is to win a Super Bowl. I see Daniel Jones as, and I don't mean this to sound disrespectful because he's a very good NFL quarterback. I just see him as someone like an Alex Smith, and you're not going to win a Super Bowl with that person. So I thought it was a reach at the time. I wanted the Giants. The Giants were on a really bad stretch at the start of last season. I wanted the Giants to tank and take Trevor Lawrence because I believe Trevor Lawrence is generational. Obviously, I didn't get my wish. They tried to make a playoff push and then got screwed out in the last game of the season. So, it ultimately comes down to Daniel Jones, whether the Giants' offense improves this year, and I don't believe it will.
Do you not think that he has any chance of making the leap up and just even making you a playoff team? Do you think he has the ability to get you that far?
I don't trust him to do that. No, that's
no.
No. It's you've got the O line as well. I am giving him a lot of stick here, but the O line, it's not great. Solder's back this year, so it'd be interesting to see what they do with the line. Barkley's back. He has no excuses not to succeed this year. This is it for Daniel Jones. This is put up or shut up time. And if he doesn't do it, then he has to go.
Do you believe that as well, Andrew?
I definitely agree with the fact that we've given him everything he can possibly have. The defense is absolutely incredible. The offense now has every single position filled bar a backup for Saquon in case he gets injured. So he's got to produce now, or it is his time. I think he just needs to stop dropping the ball on the floor. That's my main issue with him. He runs around with it out here, and then it's on the floor. But there was a big team to select. So the selection process of picking him, and he ticked the attributes that the Giants wanted to fill Manning's shoes. I mean, there's a lot of doubters out there that thought Manning could never take the Giants to a Super Bowl. There was years where they go, no, he's not, but we should get rid of him. We should move off him, win a Super Bowl. He had his struggles, the same as Dan Jones is going to have his. And, Manning is an absolute legend there now. So I think if Jones can make that next step, which I believe he can, I'm not fully trusting in him yet, but I think he's got the talent there to do it. It's just whether he can actually do it on the field. And this is the year with the team that he's got. So
I think the problem at the moment in the NFL, and this is like amongst it all fans, I suppose, and a lot of teams, especially Pittsburgh Steelers, my team being one of them, is we look at the quarterbacks who are being successful at the minute, and they're all very dynamic. Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady's the only one who's not dynamic, but let's face it, that's the anomaly. That's something that can't be explained. And when you don't have that dynamic quarterback in the pocket and being able to run and being able to do all these things that these quarterbacks can do at the minute, I feel you like you said, Jack. Can you really see Daniel Jones winning the Super Bowl? Well, because he hasn't got that dynamic attribute to him, it is a struggle, because when we look around the NFL as fans, they're the quarterbacks that are winning, and it's also the teams that have taken risks on them quarterbacks that are winning as well. Patrick Mahomes being picked by the Chiefs, they didn't even look at him. It was Andy Reid didn't even think he was that great. Lamar Jackson going at the end of the first round, Baltimore weren't even really sure on him, and these players are now flourishing, and it's the quarterback position is now changing, and that is obviously a worry with Daniel Jones. Even though Daniel Jones, I do think, has signs of that. He can run with the ball, at least. That's more than Eli Manning could do. And
he runs and falls over, though, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, he runs 90 yards or whatever it was, 60 yards, and then falls over, unfortunately.
Hey, we've all got that problem.
Well, yeah, we've all been victim of that. Andrew did briefly touch on it, Jack. Lots of acquisitions with the defense as well over the summer. A lot, Dory Jackson being one of them. But when you look at that defense now, how dynamic and fast paced and young as well that it is, how excited are you about that?
Yeah, I'm very excited with the defense. It took a massive step up last year. We're very young at corner, and Bradbury brought a lot of them guys along last year, and I'm hoping we see more improvement at corner. I love the acquisition of Danny Shelton. Actually, he was a player I really liked coming out of college. So, we've seen flashes of him obviously at the Patriots and not so much at the Lions last year, but we've seen flashes of Danny Shelton do well in the NFL. So that's an exciting acquisition for me, and I'm really excited with that group. That is how we will win games in 2021.
Right, no one flashes at Lions, do they? To be fair.
Are you concerned at all with to Saquon and the coming back from the serious injury? But also the fact that Wayne Gorman was let go. There's not a lot there in the running back room. So I mean, is that a concern for you?
Yes, it's of somewhat concern. I mean, Barkley's got injured in 2 of his last seasons now, so it's. I love Saquon Barkley coming out, and I when they made the pick, I liked the pick. I didn't get why they made the pick. It wasn't what a franchise rebuilding should do. You should never really take a running back that early. But at that position, he's a generational talent. But yeah, I am worried, and unfortunately, that is what happens to these bell cow running backs. They just get beat up, and you just see them fall off a cliff. Look at Todd Gurley, for example. They just fall off a cliff at some point in their career, and he's got something to prove this year, Saquon. But he's another one who ultimately, if it all goes wrong this year, I could see the Giants blowing it up big time, and that would mean someone like Barkley going as well.
Wow, that's another bold statement, I suppose. Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley going, but God knows what you get picks wise for Saquon Barkley, especially. You can imagine there's got to be a first round pick. Well, pending if he doesn't get injured this year again, I suppose it could be. Yeah. Well, Andrew, what's your?
He's going into his 4th year, so he's on his last year next year. So I just that's the way I see it with the Giants at the minute. I do really think if it goes wrong, massively wrong this year, that they will blow it up.
Do you think that given how the NFC East is at the minute, I mean, we call it a weak division, and it has been a weak division for a couple of years now. When you look on the paper of it, though, the talent that is within that division is really fantastic. I mean, Fletcher Cox, I mean, that's the only Eagle I'm going to probably say. But Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper. Then you've got Chase Young. Well, the Washington defense, let alone just Chase Young. Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin. There's some talent in there. Do you think, like you said, if the button was to be pressed for the New York Giants to just blow up and start again, if it doesn't succeed this year, is this year the year to take advantage of this division? Because there is some discord. I know Dak Prescott signed an extension with the Cowboys, but Mike McCarthy's still settling in there. Eagles, we just don't know what's going on, especially with Jalen Hurts as well. Is he going to be a success or not? Washington's defense is only going to get better, and they've not really got a stable quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Is it now? You've said push the button, but is it now or never in the division as well?
Yeah, I believe that's the case, and I believe that's why they've gone all in with what they've done this year with the signings and bringing in Golladay. They've given Daniel Jones the tools to succeed, and that's what it's for. They believe they can win the division this year. I'm a very I've seen it too many times with the Giants. I don't believe they will win the division, unfortunately, but they do, and that's what they're going to try and do. But if it goes horribly wrong, there's going to be a blow up at the end of the year. And there's going to, I'm talking the likes of Dave Gettleman are going to be gone, people like that. So,
how do you feel about the likes of Sterling Shepard and Evan Engram, who have kind of they've been there now for a few years. They've had injury problems, both of them. It's like keeping them on the field seems to be half the problem. I mean, do you feel, like you say, if it could potentially end up being a blow-up year? I mean, do you feel that this is almost like their last year to try and be successful with the Giants?
For sure. I mean, there was at times last year they were trying to ship Evan Engram actively, but no one wanted him because he couldn't catch the ball. I don't know what happened to Evan Engram last year. When he came out of college, he was electric for a tight end. I mean, tight ends don't do what he done in his first year in the NFL. When they come out of college, he was electric. I do not know what happened to him last year. He just had the drops everywhere over the field. And like you say, Adam, he gets injured a lot. Shepard is just one of them guys. They gave him a bit of a, I don't know. I thought it was a big contract at the time that they gave him for a slot receiver, and I just think you can find those guys throughout the whole of the NFL. Like you could pick up someone like a Cole Beasley who does what Evan Engram does, maybe better as well.
Andrew, what is your opinion on Jack's thesis with the New York Giants? Are you in the same camp? Do you think there is that strain up for the New York organization? Because it's a huge market as well. We forget that it's New York City. Like, it's not like other cities. They demand success. They demand winning football, apart from if you're the New York Jets or the New York Knicks. In fact, there's a lot of New York teams don't do that great in recent history. But, other than that, it is a high pressure media place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit more optimistic. I do think that with the players that they've got there and the amount they've put in it for this year, I don't think you can, after 1 year, just go, boom, it's over. There's going to be a lot of guys playing for their position. There's going to be a lot of players playing to stay there for the following year. I think with how weak the division is and the fact that, unless the Cowboys come out and they're like this team that just blows everybody out the water, I still think if we just have a mediocre year, then I think there's still enough time for us in that division to keep the guys that are there, add a few more pieces, maybe change the quarterback like we've all said, and keep that unit together, because like we said, the defense unit is really, really tight knit and really good. Why spoil it? Why ruin it? And we've got a good group of wide receiving cores and tight ends and things. So let's not let them disperse. Let's make a few little piece of changes, and then we could take over that division for the next sort of 5 years while we've got them on those new contracts. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be reset time after 1 year. I think that they've got to give that chance to bed in, and that's it. It's a weak division, so there's it's not 1 year and done. I think we can definitely build and try and win it the following year. Washington won it last year, so we can't write them off either. So we're building with everyone in there. So yeah, I don't think it's reset time.
If it is,
do you actually think that is the case, though? Because I know you say it's a weak division, but Dallas I know defensively they might not be amazing, but offensively they're very strong. If they can keep all them players on the field, then they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. In the same way, Washington's defense, like we've said with the Giants, that's what's going to win them games. It kind of feels like you do have a lot of strong pieces there now, and bringing in Golladay is a massive plus. But I mean, do you really feel that it is going to be almost that easy to kind of take over, even if you do bring in a few decent pieces? Because you could say that about Washington. Like, they bring in a good quarterback, and you could say it's the same thing. So,
come on, Adam, don't leave out Philadelphia. Come on.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I'm saying, though, Adam, when I'm talking about it. They need to bring it. If they don't meet expectation, they're going to have to bring a few more pieces in. So, we're all going to be building together at the same time because it's so bad. So, they're not going to hit the reset button and go, oh, let's get rid of Chase Young. It didn't work. So, I don't think we should be extreme. It's going to be competitive in that league for the next few years of who's going to get that top spot. So, pressing reset and going to the bottom of that list is going to be not fun to watch the Giants play for a long time, I think, if you do that, because those three teams are going to grow.
It hasn't been fun for 10 years, to be honest. Let's be honest. So, I think, what was it, one playoff appearance in 10 years since our last Super Bowl under Ben McAdoo. And then we went to Green Bay and they destroyed us in the snow.
I guess Adam's going to be happy about that one. The cheese head over there.
You got to
Jack,
remember the history.
yeah, Jack, thank you for joining us, my man. Really appreciate it. Really, some really interesting thoughts and facts about New York Giants and about Kadarius Toney as well. It's been really great having you on, my man. Where can we find your stuff on social media, and also where can we donate to the charity for the Steve Rains Bowl as well?
Yes, I'll start with the Steve Rains Bowl. We're just any donations to Cancer Research UK. Goes down very well with us there. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Humphrey KM. You can find all of my personal work on there, my DFS stuff that I'm doing currently. And we've just had a rebrand of Kickers Matter actually. So
smashing, cool.
We've been on a bit of a 3-month hiatus. I know Adam, you was asking after us last night. So yeah, been on a bit of a hiatus, but we've renamed it the Steve Rains Fantasy Football Show in honor of our late podcast host, Steve.
That's great. What a great tribute. And I'm sure the rebranding will go really well. I did see something on Twitter earlier about it, so I'll be very excited to see what you guys are coming up with this year and throughout the season as well. Until then, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Jack, for joining us. Thank you, Andrew and Adam as well. We'll be back again with the Future of the Franchise series all the way leading up to the season. Not that long till the season starts now. Going to be very exciting. We're going to do more weekly shows when the season starts and coming up to the start of the season as well. We're going to be doing stuff on the Sundays as well, hopefully. Lots of good things to come from the Franchise Tag podcast. Until then, really appreciate it. Try and keep a little bit cool in this warm weather. It's so goddamn hot. It is crazy, but, we shouldn't complain. Go and get your tans. Go have some beers in the sun. NFL will be back very, very soon. Until then, have a good week. We'll see you soon.